ولساني عربية حسبي بأنك منطقي وبياني عربية.
Okay, that's session number 3 and 4. So your question is too soon. But remember, if we don't have the time to answer all the questions now before 12:30, we're stopping at 12:30, your questions will be answered in the fourth session after the fourth session. Don't forget to do for that, okay? We only have 22 minutes left. So we won't be able to answer all the questions. Now, they will be answered later, yes.
Next question. Brother Ali, there are countries in Africa and the Caribbean calling for reparations. What is your message to them?
Reparations for slavery. This is only very indirectly related to my second session. So let's leave that until the end.
Can I lend someone money equivalent to 100 grams of gold and take the value of 100 grams of gold 1 year later instead of the actual money given on loan?
If the actual money which is lent is 100 grams of gold, then they can return you the 100 grams of gold 1 year later. There is no riba there. Fail to see the question. Maybe you didn't express yourself sufficiently. Who asked the question?
Brother, do you want to explain this?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean about the value of paying in money, but equivalent to 100 grams.
If you lend money
Equivalent
to 100 pounds, you didn't put that in your question. If you lend money which is equivalent to 100 pounds, how much are you expected to take in return? That's session number 3. Go away.
How to explain to non-Muslims in simple terms why interest is prohibited in Islam? They say interest makes sense as there is inflation of money.
That's session number 3. Session number 3 is money in the world today. Yeah, that's session number 3. I'm a little bit disappointed now, because I would expect you, if you understood the presentation so far in stage 2, you would be asking questions pertaining to what was presented in stage 2, but you're jumping the gun. And you're asking questions for stage 3 and stage 4. Go ahead.
Is insurance and investment banking correct?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. I am of the opinion that insurance is the sister of riba. Like 15, 20 years ago, I said that Saudi Arabia was the sister of Israel, but I realized I was wrong. At that time, they were only cousins, now they're sisters. Yes, that insurance is the sister of riba, because the moneylender does not want to suffer loss. The wealthy, the rich people do not want to suffer loss. They want to block all possibilities of loss so that they remain permanently rich. So when they lend money on interest and you have a mortgage, they're secure. But Allah can send a fire, and the fire can burn down the whole of the Trump Tower in New York, in Manhattan. And you suffer colossal loss. Allah can cause a tsunami to come. Then a tsunami can do this, a storm, a hurricane can come, and you suffer catastrophic losses. So in order to immunize yourself from even such losses, you have insurance. Insurance doesn't help the poor. They have nothing. But with insurance, you collect from everybody and ensure that the rich would not suffer catastrophic losses. So this is not something different, significantly different from riba. It is a support mechanism for riba. That in order to ensure that the rich would not suffer losses, you have insurance. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, next question. What amount of risk percentage should there be in a transaction for it to be halal and not riba?
There is a difference between business and gambling. Yes. And speculative transactions, yeah. A businessman who is a good businessman would be one who would study the market. He wouldn't go into the market like a racehorse. You study the market. A businessman should have business acumen. A businessman should have a profile of integrity, that you know that if he gives his word, he keeps his word. All of these things are there in business. So a successful businessman has these qualities. But then, in addition to that, the Quran speaks about business and says, لا تأكلوا الربا يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم بالباطل إلا أن تكون تجارة عن تراض منكم. That business should be transacted in such a way that you try to achieve mutual satisfaction. That I do business from you and I benefit and you benefit. This is why Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, is so very correct when he says to the Western world, which is imposing economic sanctions, that you're doing something foolish. By imposing economic sanctions, everybody suffer. You suffer and we also suffer. So business should be transacted in such a way, says the Quran, that there's mutual satisfaction. In order for that mutual satisfaction to be realized, you must have a profit margin that is reasonable, so that your customer will be satisfied that you have not ripped him off. And once there is mutual satisfaction in business, he'll always come back to you to do business. And when there is mutual satisfaction in business, eventually trust will be built. He trusts you as a businessman. And when he trusts you as a businessman, on that day when you start to talk to him about truth, he will accept it. Because if I can trust you in business, I can trust you in religion as well. So these are all the ethics of business in Islam.
Is lending money a risk-free business, whereas selling commodities, say banana, is risky? What do you say about credit risk?
Lending money on interest and securing your capital with a mortgage, yes, it is risk-free. You are eliminating the possibility of loss. If you are selling bananas, you're taking a risk because you may not be able to sell the bananas before they're ripe. And in the end, you might have to end up using the bananas to feed animals because they cannot be sold. They're now too ripe. So there is a risk involved in selling bananas. But there is no risk involved in lending money on interest.
Is using interest to give charity a legitimate use of interest and a possible means of exiting the interest-ridden society we live in?
Allah has prohibited riba. The Prophet said, and you'll find these hadiths. This book is the importance of the prohibition of riba in Islam, and I wrote it as a separate booklet in order to use this to get people to be interested in the subject, because they find it too difficult. So this is meant to get you to be interested in the subject, the importance of the prohibition of riba in Islam. And these were written 20 years ago. And in this one, you will find the hadith that if you consume 1 dirham of riba, it is worse than committing zina 36 times. In this book you will find a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ cursed all 4. The one who takes riba, the one who gives riba. I hope we don't have any accountants here today. The one who records the transaction, and the 2 witnesses. And he said they're all equally guilty. Equally guilty. And so, any fatwa that you get, that you can take riba money and use it to give in charity, is a bogus fatwa. When you're giving charity, the Prophet said about the slave, give him to eat the food that you eat, and give him clothes to wear the clothes that you wear. So when you're giving in charity, you don't give food that is rotting. You'll give food that you would eat. And you cannot consume the riba. You're going to give it to him to consume it? From which garbage bin did that fatwa come? Excuse the harshness of my language, really. I don't know where these muftis study their religion. From which garbage bin did you pick up that fatwa? That you can give the riba money that you cannot consume. It is so nasty. It is so nasty that even 1 dirham is equivalent or worse than committing zina 36 times. That is so nasty, and I can give it in charity to the poor. From which garbage bin did that fatwa come? No, you cannot use it for your own benefit. No. Nor can you give it to others because it's haram for them as well. It's haram for the Jew, it's haram for the Christian. It's there in the Hindu scriptures as well. Well then, if I cannot use it myself, and I cannot give it to others because it's haram for them, what can I do with it? I'll tell you what I would do. I don't know what you will do. You will decide. What I would do is I invite all the family members, particularly the children, to come, and I wait until it's dark, so there's no light. And then I will show them this money, which is riba. Explain to them it is haram, why it is haram and so on. And then say, okay, now turn off the lights. Place become dark, and then I take the match and I light a fire and I burn it in front of them. And I achieve 2 things. Number 1, of course, the easier one, I destroy the money. But the more important thing is I'll burn it into their hearts. They will never forget it. Look at what Grandpa did with that. Look at what Grandpa, they will, for generations to come, they will say, we remember what Grandpa did. He put the money. Yes. That's what I would do. Or you could bury it as well. Next question.
I think similar to previously, but it's slightly different. We have pictures on coins and notes these days. What is our alternative to using them?
There are several questions involved in that. Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiqui, rahimahullah, was the teacher of my teacher. My teacher was Maulana Dr. Muhammad Fadlur Rahman Ansari, rahimahullah. And Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiqui, rahimahullah, was a great muballigh of Islam, great traveling with animal cart and by boat and by ship, no aeroplanes in those days. And he met with George Bernard Shaw in Mombasa in 1935. And we have the record, the script of the conversation. Yeah, yes. And Bernard Shaw said, "But your host, I mean your people brought a cameraman here to record. Why don't you want to take a photograph?" And the Maulana answered and replied, "Photography is haram in Islam." "Oh, really? But I've seen many photographs of Maulana Abdul Alim Siddiqui standing up, posing for the camera." Yes. And then I realized that the Maulana did not have his feet stuck in concrete. As Iqbal said, only stones don't change. So although he had given the fatwa that photography was haram, he changed his position later on. He changed his position and he withdrew that fatwa that photography is haram. So we cannot say that a photograph is haram. You all have passports, don't you? You do? Everybody? And in your passport, do you have a photograph? Huh? Okay. So that's one part of the subject. What is there in the Torah is that a graven image is haram. A graven image. So that head that is put on the coin, that is what is haram. But the other part of the subject is whether paper money is halal or haram, and that is our third session. Next question.
If wealth has been obtained through riba, e.g. mortgages, how can this wealth be cleaned?
If wealth has been consumed through riba, the Quran says, فَمَنْ جَاءَهُ مَوْعِظَةٌ مِّن رَبِّهِ فَانْتَهَى فَلَهُ مَا سَلَفَ وَأَمْرُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Whosoever was engaged in transactions through which they receive riba, and then subsequently realize that this is haram, and they decide they want to stop. So Allah says, فَلَهُ مَا سَلَفَ, you can keep whatever you've earned. The state will not intervene to take from you anything. فَلَهُ مَا سَلَفَ وَأَمْرُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. And this matter is now transferred to Allah's court, not this court down here. So once you have decided that this is haram, I want to stay away from it, the money which you have already realized from whatever transaction you had, you put your money in a fixed deposit and you got interest in it, you can now keep whatever you have. You can keep it. فَلَهُ مَا سَلَفَ وَأَمْرُهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. And the matter is now transferred to Allah's court. Nothing can be done here. Next question.
How should Muslims obtain credit or loan if they need it? Every lender is charging some form of interest.
If the ulama of Islam were not doing their work, if they were teaching the subject of riba as they ought to, then we have different transactions in Islam to solve this problem, as business has been done for thousands of years. I have capital and you have a business. I have the money. I have a lot, tons of money, and you have the business and you need money. How do we solve the problem? Okay. The problem is solved through mudaraba and musharaka. In mudaraba, I will invest my money in your business, but you will continue to run the business. And if the business makes a profit, I get a share in the profit. That's what the bank does. But in this case, the bank takes its cut. But with mudaraba, you eliminate the bank. So everybody benefits now. How much is the percentage of profit that I would get if I'm only investing capital? That's all. Maybe say 25%. It is to be determined through negotiations. This is called mudaraba, or a sleeping partnership. And then there's the other form of a partnership. I have capital, you have the business. I will not only invest in your business, but I will also join in running the business. This is partnership. And then since we are both in the partnership, we both are investing, we will have a share to be divided between us based upon, number one, my investment, and number two, my participation in the business. This is musharaka. This is how we get capital in Islam. When you need money for your business, this is how we get money.
Quite a practical question. When we go to mosques on Jummah, I never hear the topic of riba being mentioned. Is this due to the Jar suppressing this information being spread, or failure of Islamic scholarship and knowledge?
This is one of the reasons why I'm ready. Allah can take me anytime He wants now. I have spent 25 years of my life, and I have achieved nothing with the world of Islamic scholars, nothing. Yes, with those who are not scholars, the young people, university graduates and so on, and through the internet, alhamdulillah, plenty. But the Maulanas and the Muftis and the Shuyukh and the Ustaz, the Ulama, I have achieved nothing. I don't know what to do. I've done all I could do. But if Allah wants to take me away, I'm happy to leave, because there is nothing more I can do. I don't have any answer for your question.